This video is now in session, and I've had to record this video twice because I've had to let this sink in about the actions of Andrew Cuomo and how disgusting they are, but also but also how he has abused his power and as well as his political fate. So, with this report, Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, has concluded the report, or at least the two prosecutors or the two investigators shown right here. One of them a former prosecutor, one of them a legal analyst, and both of them have said that Andrew Cuomo had violated state and federal law by sexually assaulting multiple women multiple times, and with that, that's practically it's almost the end of his political career at this point. Now, if we're talking about the allegations that was stated, they include groping, touching butts as well as breasts, and as well as inappropriate touching. And this was given by multiple people in this 165-page report, which I'll have the link in the description below for you to read if you want to. But you can see here that there are multiple cases right here, from an executive assistant to a state trooper to the three publicly known cases, and then two additional cases, and as well as two state employees who wish to not reveal their names. So with that, there are multiple cases of sexual assault, and it's very likely that an impeachment inquiry by the state legislature will be set up because of how New York's politics works. New York's state legislature is heavily controlled by Democrats who do not like Andrew Cuomo, and it seems like with this case of sexual assault on multiple counts, it's likely that we will see an impeachment inquiry being set up. Now, in terms of Andrew Cuomo being able to survive his last year as governor, it's likely he will survive his last year as governor because he has the political power to convince people in the state legislature to not convict him of sexual assault, of breaching federal law and state law, and abusing his power. But when it comes to 2022, it's going to be very bad for him, because if you hear the reports that were given by Letitia James as well as the two investigators, they are very, very damning and incredibly disgusting. It's absolutely abhorrent. In terms of the actions that Andrew Cuomo did. And it's not like that this report is false or is politically charged. Because originally, if we look into the context of this situation, allegations of sexual assault came up in February, and Andrew Cuomo said that those allegations were not true. But because they were so charged towards him by the New York Times, Andrew Cuomo authorized an investigation conducted by Letitia James. And then he stated that the investigation would not be completely clear-cut, or at least completely true and unbiased, because Letitia James has political motivations. And that may be partly true, but then Letitia James handled the investigation and then transferred it to the two individuals in the video, Joon Kim, a former top federal prosecutor, and then Ann Clark, who is an employment lawyer. So both of them don't have political motivations, and both of them fairly conducted the investigation. And with multiple cases of sexual assault, you can see that there are at least 8 here. It's definitely some of it definitely has to be true in some regard. Now, Andrew Cuomo will try to twist these cases to make it to blunt the downfall that this case will bring to his political career. But he is in a very bad position right now because of all of these allegations, and because of how gross each allegation is that has been proven to be true. So with that, when it comes to 2022, his main challenge will be the Democratic primary. Bill de Blasio has already said that he will not rule out of running for the New York governor's position. Scott Stringer and Harmon Williams both have also publicly expressed interest. And then you have a bunch of you have a bunch of New York congressional members who could run for this seat against Andrew Cuomo come 2022, including progressives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and then there's also Kathleen Rice, Tom Suzy. You also have Hakeem Jeffries, Grace Mung, and then Letitia James herself, Attorney General of New York. All of them could run against Andrew Cuomo in 2022, and all of them could very well win against him because a lot of New Yorkers do not want. A lot of New Yorkers are starting to dislike Andrew Cuomo, and this has happened ever since his 2014 reelection campaign, where he won by a pretty large margin. But now we're in 2022, where he's running for reelection for his fourth term as governor, which is a very long time for ruling the state of New York, and certainly a lot of New Yorkers feel like it's time for Governor Cuomo to be replaced by someone else, especially with the disorganization that happened in New York City during the pandemic, and as well as the disconnect between New York City and the rest of New York. So with that, there are a bunch of candidates who could very well replace Andrew Cuomo. That said, if Andrew Cuomo somehow pulls off a political miracle, he still has to face the general election, but a miracle could come for him if he does win the Democratic primary, in the sense that for the Republican primary, currently the front runner is Andrew Giuliani, the son of Rudy Giuliani. And if he wins the Republican primary, and if Andrew Cuomo wins the Democratic primary, that would be a godsend to Governor Cuomo, because Andrew Giuliani is because a lot of his political rise is off of nepotism, which a lot of New Yorkers don't like. And to add on, Rudy Giuliani is someone incredibly hated by a lot of New Yorkers. So with that hatred will most likely extend to Andrew Giuliani. And with that, it seems likely that if Andrew Cuomo was to go against Andrew Giuliani, then then the Democrats would win out. But his main challenge still is the Democratic primary, and that will happen, and that will happen very soon, or I guess next year, and it's definitely going to be a competitive race. Even though no one else has declared to run for governor of New York, certainly with this investigation now out, it's likely that someone will try to run and mount a challenge against Cuomo in the primaries. So, again, it's like if we look at these sexual assault allegations and combine them with all the other sexual assault allegations by every other political figure, it starts to paint a picture of Andrew Cuomo. And it's not only about sexual assault; it's also about intimidation and as well as an abuse of power in general, because this investigation not only outlines the sexual assault and the misconducts of Governor Cuomo, but it also outlines the cases of abuse by Cuomo and his aides to aides lower down the echelon, and it also outlines cases where Governor Cuomo has verbally abused other individuals and verbally abused a woman who came out and with claims of sexual assault by Governor Cuomo. And it paints a picture of Cuomo abusing his power and using his power to think that he can do anything he wants because he has that power and that immunity, even though he really doesn't, and even though he really and ultimately he should not really be thinking that, because now he is in political peril. And it actually emulates a lot of the other politicians who were accused of sexual assault. For example, Donald Trump, he was accused of sexual misconduct, and that is mainly because of privilege and power. If you have privilege and power, you're more likely to conduct worse actions in your career in the places that you have power, because you think that you have immunity. But for a lot of New Yorkers, he might not have the immunity anymore if he becomes a regular citizen of New York rather than the governor of New York, and that could very well happen. If we look at one of the polls right here, if Andrew Cuomo goes against a generic opponent, the generic opponent wins 53% here in this Siena College poll, and then 57% here in this Marist College poll. So that is what's happening with the New York governor's race. There's certainly more that will happen in this race because we're only just starting to see the full scale of Andrew Cuomo's administration and how it has how it has used its power to silence women who have been sexually assaulted by the man at the very top, Andrew Cuomo. So there'll be more videos on this. Now, this is not, I mean, you could treat this as a political issue, and obviously politics will get involved in this, but this is something that is pretty wrong to do. If you're a Democrat or a Republican, I don't think you really should be groping other individuals. Not that I don't think I know that you shouldn't be doing that, but yeah, this it's something that we'll have to process more and more as we learn more information and as we start to see this all unfold. So that's the end of this. That's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next one.